He's the founder of, He's the founder of an institution or an organization called the Core, where he trains youths on Bitcoin-related matters. He also onboards businesses onto the Bitcoin standard. So if you have a business and you're wondering how you can actually integrate BTC into it, he is the guy to look out for. The next person, of course, is one of our biggest supporters. He's been with us since, let me say, cohort 2. Mr. That's what you've got. Okay. So Jason has been one of the biggest supporters of Bitcoin. Intellectually, emotionally, everything, and a team player as well. He is also a Bitcoiner, and he can graph you up if you're a shitcoiner, so watch out. Lastly, we have, who's the last person? Bill, our lawyer. Nairobi lawyers. Okay, so someone went away with my phone, I don't have the questions. All right, so before we start, I'd like you to introduce yourself, and of course we'll start with the Gen Z.
Hello, I'm Felix, building at the core American education program for the youth, like you said. I also do 100 business cooking challenge, likes to help 100 businesses to accept Bitcoin payments by the end of 2024. I'm at 15. Hopefully we have guys here with businesses, so you can reach out to me after this if you're interested, and of course you know about Bitcoin. And also do printing and branding services for Bitcoin projects and other internet projects.
Hi everyone, my name is Jason. I'm a world traveler who settled in Kenya about 2 years ago after visiting 139 other countries. And I've been at the Congress since 2015, going down the rabbit hole, and I'm never found the bottom, and I keep learning every day, and I hope you do as well.
Trust fund. Only the ladies will get that.
Hi everyone, my name is Bill Okelu. I'm partner at Okelu Advocates, a law firm. I am in the space. I advise businesses that use blockchain and crypto and cryptocurrency. I'm also part of the lobby group that's trying to get regulation, and the regulation that's actually to our advantage. And I guess that's it.
Pleasure having you all here. So the first question, of course, we've seen unrest in Kenya over the last few weeks, right, with the Gen Z striking. Well, everybody now calls themselves Gen Z, but let's face it, Gen Z are the ones who actually started this, so thank you for that. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to try and understand what has been happening in the bill as well, and see how also Bitcoin can be probably a solution to this. So the first question, I would want our lawyer to actually tackle this question, and how do you see, or how has the recent financial bill affected the economic landscape in Kenya? And he's looking at me like, what? And can you highlight probably any specific sectors or demographics that have been particularly impacted?
Can you repeat that question?
Okay, so how has the recent finance bill affected the economic landscape in Kenya?
Okay. First, so the finance bill iliangushwa with the Gen Z, and the main purpose of the finance bill was its main purpose was to collect more money so that we can be able to pay our debts and not default. Now, finance bill kuanguka, of course, it's positive for us because we will be paying less taxes as compared to in the future. But now, what we are facing is probable tax default. And if that were to happen, then you better turn all your money into Bitcoin now, because currency devaluation is a real thing. If you ask Nigerians, their currency lost almost 50% of its value in 1 year. So currency devaluation is a very big risk that's happening right now. And I personally, people will tell you to put your money in MMF, put your money in government bonds, but that doesn't save you from currency devaluation. So I myself put my money in cryptocurrency, and my biggest assets are in Bitcoin, of course, because it's the chief coin. What was the other? Sorry.
Can you highlight any specific sectors that you think have been impacted as a result of what has been going on?
Tourism. Of course, we always see the US and UK giving warnings. I'm sure even Jason here can say their countries give them warnings on there's unrest in this country, don't go to this country. And tourism has really been affected. There are a lot of negative effects of protests, but I don't think the protests themselves are negative. I was actually in the street. I'm sure some of you are also there. I don't think I'm Gen Z, but I was actually in the street fighting for this country and against that finance bill. And tuliangusha, and thank God. And I don't know. And also, investment sector has also been affected. You see, when there's unrest in a country, the financial sector is usually affected because businesses were not open. Businesses were not open, so we were losing money. And investors are also afraid. Investors were leaving. The stock market has been affected. So there's a lot of things have been affected. And when it comes to financial things, I think the safest thing is just Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the solution.
Amazing. So this goes to Jason. People have spoken about devaluation of currencies, and we've seen that in many African countries, but I guess this is a problem that's across the global markets, not just Africa. Would you explain to someone who is getting into the space, whether it's the financial space or the Bitcoin space, how this impacts probably their future wealth or even their current state of living, and how it would look like if they opted for Bitcoin, and why Bitcoin is actually a better option for them?
Okay. Bitcoin is a better option because it is based on a set of rules that are basically set in stone, and you as an individual can enforce those rules. So without getting too technical, when you operate a piece of software, a Bitcoin node software, you are saying these are the rules of my money, and no one else can force you to update that code to run a different set of rules. And so it gives you an immense amount of freedom to be able to choose the money that you want. All of us grew up in the current fiat system where we just grow up and say, hey, here's a dollar bill or here's a penny shilling, and this you can exchange for goods and services. So you have this idea in your mind that that's money because you can trade it for the things you want to run your life. The problem with that is someone else controls the rules. The central bankers control the rules of that money. So you're not in control, someone else controls it for you. And as we've seen over history, they can change the rules whenever they want. They can say, today the money's worth this, tomorrow the money's worth that, and you can't plan for a long-term financial future when you don't know what the value of the money's going to be tomorrow. The great thing about Bitcoin is one Bitcoin is always one Bitcoin. There's only ever 21 million. And so you can measure your worth just by simple division. How many Bitcoin do I have out of the 21 million? And then the thing that's weird right now is we're in this paradigm where we grew up with fiat, moving out of fiat. And so we have to have a mental model where you've got one foot in the fiat world and you've got one foot in the Bitcoin world. And it's a little confusing. And that's why people say it's volatile, right? Because you're measuring it against something that you're used to. But you should be measuring it the other way. And it takes a big mental leap to change your mind. But it's definitely worth it because then over time, everything gets cheaper if you're using Bitcoin as your unit of account.
Good. Good point that you talked about that it takes like a huge mental, to actually get to that level where you understand what BTC is and BTC. And I'm saying this because recently when BTC took a deep dive, I remember the girls were actually, some of them were like, what the hell is happening to my money? It was panic in the community, like, yo, what is happening to my wallet? Someone is stealing my money. But I guess they will get there at some point. Now, this...
One thing that helped me, I went through that too, and one thing that helped me is like, stop thinking of buying Bitcoin, think of it as you're selling fiat. It's a little shift in your mind, but it helps me like, oh, I get more Bitcoin for my fiat, so you get more value.
Right? Like, did you guys get that? You got it? Yeah, you're selling your fiat to add more Bitcoin, so it actually makes sense, right? Right? Okay, so the next question would be not necessarily for Felix, but anyone who is actually confident enough to answer these questions, a bit contradicting, not really contradicting, not sure about the term, but anyway, so Jason has talked about, having your own rules to run your money, to own your money, right? But there's also a challenge of, we have the government, the taxes are supposed to help the country's economy, right? So if we all choose to use BTC, stay with me guys. If we all choose to use Bitcoin, what happens to the economy? Because are we going to pay taxes? How are we going to build our infrastructure on that? So this is for anyone who is comfortable. Thank you, Lord.
One thing that people don't know is that actually in the finance bill of 2023, government introduced taxes in crypto, and the taxes were for every transaction. So for every transaction, if you change your maybe Bitcoin to fiat, or even change your Bitcoin to Ethereum, the other way around, you're supposed to pay 3% tax on that. And it was a withholding tax, which means that the platform that you're using will actually withhold that tax. But just between you and me, no one is actually paying that tax. But the High Court last week, was it 2 weeks ago, iliangusha pia the finance bill of 2020, of 2023. So that tax has now, the bill was found unconstitutional, so that tax has now gone away. But before, what I'm trying to say is the government can actually tax your crypto. And how they do this is through the platforms that you use to on-ramp and off-ramp. Of course, you will need to on-ramp from, on-ramping is just changing your Kenya shillings to Bitcoin. And then you have to use a platform to do that. Maybe, for example, if you use Binance, now they won't come to you, they will go to Binance. And they tell Binance, if you want to operate in Kenya, then you'll have to pay this tax. So, yeah, even though crypto is a better is better for our pockets, and government can still tax it if they want to. So we can still build our economy, we can still pay our taxes, just through a different means. And government themselves, through those platforms, will change your crypto into now fiat and use it to build our economy.
They all want to say something.
All right. First of all, fiat is a monetary system by decree enforced by backed by the head of state and the force of state, right? And people are not using Bitcoin because we want to escape taxes. It's just a transparent money, right? So the problem in the current monetary system, you don't know actually what's happening with your taxes. Some are misused, mishandled, and all that. And we are in the very early stage of Bitcoin, so they develop the regulations come later on. So, and of course, we have some of what we call custodial wallets and all that exchanges. That's one way they can also try to figure out how they are going to tax us, because I mean, the tax to some extent is something you're supposed to study the best. I'm not sure if that's correct. But it's not a way to escape paying taxes. It's just a transparent way. Even if you pay the taxes for anything, at least we're able to monitor. The other time we saw El Salvador, which has Bitcoin as legal tender, publicly saying this is how much of Bitcoin we have. So in this case of maybe a country now putting Bitcoin as legal tender, even if they say we are going to collect this amount in taxes, and they are able to, of course, they will be able to, when they allocate this money into projects like building infrastructure, or to say at least we know this amount of money is allocated to this county, it has been used in this way. Every transaction, from the first transaction up to the current, the most recent transaction, are in the Bitcoin's blockchain. So we're able to see. So it's very hard to kind of just do whatever that's happening in terms of corruption with the current monetary system. It's very opaque. You usually want to know what's happening with your taxes. So Bitcoin is just transparent. The government will find their ways in way to put regulatory for it, but for now, I mean, it might be difficult because even the government will say, don't understand what's happening, right? But so, the governments don't maybe like Bitcoin, not because we as Bitcoiners don't use Bitcoin because we are avoiding taxes. The government avoids Bitcoin because they don't know how, the transparency in Bitcoin might be a problem to them because of the way we are able to do a audit in terms of finding out how our money is being used. So in general, I know the Bitcoin in general is in a very early stage to figure out how taxes can be done, but there's a way definitely to support. You can do them through exchanges, maybe custodial wallets and other features. So for self-custody and all that, I'm not sure how as per now, but it's something that is doable.
Well said, well said. Jesus.
I would just add on, so he was mentioning something called on-ramp and off-ramp. I'm sure we all know what that is. If you're on-ramping to Bitcoin, you're changing your fiat into Bitcoin and vice versa. There's the off-ramp. Imagine for a second, if we had no on-ramp and no off-ramp, we call that a Bitcoin circular economy. We don't go back into fiat. We trade all our fiat into Bitcoin, and we say, you guys can keep your fiat, governments. If you want to keep printing your money and inflating it to infinity, go ahead. We're not playing that game anymore. We're using Bitcoin. So we're not off-ramping. We've on-ramped all of our fiat into Bitcoin, and now we're only operating on Bitcoin standard. And so that gives you so much more freedom of choice. Like, I'm choosing to play a different game. I'm not playing the game of inflation. I'm not playing the game of high taxes. I'm playing the game of a open monetary system that no one else controls, but us individuals who opt into this game.
Well done.
Just to add one thing, it's good to also realize that money does not originate from governments. It arises naturally as markets begin to develop. Over the history from bartering to commodities, the merchants who realize it's an innovation, right? So we shouldn't be relying so much on how governments are going to play by the rules. They will figure it out.
That's actually true. Better money actually outdoes, the money that doesn't work. So then, like you said, the barter system, then we have the metals, then we have the coins, then so eventually, hopefully, we get to Bitcoin. Do you want to add something?
I guess I would just say, like, the common argument is people always say, well, who's going to build the roads? Well, who builds the roads today? People build the roads. We can find people that build the roads, but they exist. We know them. They build the roads today. So we can just pay them in better money and have roads. So it's not an issue.
I feel like Michael Sagan is speaking. Is it giving you the same vibes? Okay, so this question goes to Felix, the educator, and the question is, what are the biggest challenges that Kenya faces in terms of adopting Bitcoin as a mainstream financial tool, if any? You cannot just say that none. And
Yeah, of course, we would say that maybe the biggest challenge of adoption is kind of a direct relation to education, right? So because even what I'm doing, the 100 business okay, challenge tends to support the businesses. You don't just approach anyone from zero knowledge of Bitcoin. They have to know something, okay? So the biggest challenge I would say is education. So the biggest, actually, some people like to ask this question more often that what's your prediction of Bitcoin price? I don't know in what year or which. I tell them, okay, the number of people you are onboarding, try to measure that with whatever the price they are expecting, because Bitcoin is price of Bitcoin is a direct equal of how many people are into Bitcoin. Of course, you have few people who want to of course sell Bitcoin, or maybe right now a group of people are selling Bitcoin that they have a lot of Bitcoin, it's going to affect. But the more people who understand Bitcoin from an innovation point of view and not from an asset, you know, people invest in Bitcoin just waiting for it to go out, going to say, forget about those. I'm talking about those who know Bitcoin the way you educate, right? They're going through maybe 8 chapters, 9, 10 chapters, the history of money, all that. By nature, I mean, once you've gone through the Bitcoin education, even if your employer is paying you, you will ask for Bitcoin. There's that opportunity. So the biggest challenge will be education. Once people are educated even more, and then of course adoption happens. That's just like that.
Right. The strength of our technology is actually measured by the strength of its community. Amazing. All right. I think the other question as we wind up would be, can you share probably, Jason, if any opportunities that you think Bitcoin presents for economic development and financial inclusion in Kenya or any other country?
Wow, it's immense. Imagine if you were around, looks like mostly a young crowd, but imagine if you were around when the internet first came out. The number of opportunities that would present itself with this new technology, this network that was global. You got the same exact thing with Bitcoin. It's still so early. I know you look at the price at $60,000, that's nothing. It's going to be way more as governments inflate their currency to infinity. What is infinity? 21 divided by infinity? It's infinity. That's the future price of Bitcoin. So you're at very early stages from a technological point of view, where the base layer is very firm and strong. We're seeing layer 2s like Lightning are really flourishing, and layer 3, 4, 5 is up to you guys to decide and build it, because it's a permissionless network, and anyone can go in there and say, I'm going to offer up my product and service and pay me in Bitcoin. So anyone can build a business on Bitcoin.
Because you can actually love that point where he says the Bitcoin method is actually permissionless, and that's the beauty of BTC. You know, you see a problem with BTC and actually build a solution. The same way the Lightning Network came about. There was an issue when it came to, you know, how do you call it, speed in terms of sending BTC and receiving, and someone actually came up with the LN, the Lightning Network. So it's for you to actually find a challenge with BTC and say, okay, this is not working for us, and we build on top of it. So yeah, good point.
In terms of opportunities, I can say just maybe add to what Jason has said, we're in the development stage of Bitcoin. Just recently at the core, we wanted to have maybe our education in what we call the learning management system. So that's a development. So if we have a software engineer or a person who wants to write something of that piece of code to have our students manage the learning management system rather than maybe Google Meet or Zoom, that's an opportunity for the programmer. Of course, you have to have a little bit background knowledge of Bitcoin. Now, once the learning management system is done, how do we guide people on how to use it? We want a content creator. That's another opportunity. So, whatever you're doing in Fiat, and I usually say, Bitcoin is a passion project for what you're doing for a living, right? So, whatever you're doing doesn't matter. Is it content? Is it music? Is it writing articles? We have the recent protest in Kenya. How many writers you should have written something about protest in relation to Bitcoin? You guys saw me out there with a placard saying vote Bitcoin and vote out there during the protest. And so we have somebody already in Nigeria use a Bitcoin and writing about that. Okay, so we have all this opportunity. Whatever you're doing in the fiat world, it's almost the same thing you can do in the Bitcoin space and sats as well as sats are just Bitcoin. Okay, so you just work on your skill, presenting to the community or the Bitcoin network or any other organization, then that's what we pay with Bitcoin.
Absolutely true. Okay. So final question, because this will be to all, and I'm just interested in the crowd. How many people here are new to Bitcoin? Like you totally don't understand what Bitcoin is? Love that. Love that. You have 3, 4. You have 5. Who else? Don't be shy. 6. I thought I saw a hand on one of your wait, what? Can you please raise your hand? I might be giving free satoshis. Now the hands have gone up. So let me see them again, please, kindly. Don't say, I've seen you in the Web3 space several times. So. Okay, so make sure you pass through the Q&A booth and get your questions answered. You never know, there might be a giveaway there, but only to those who don't understand what Bitcoin is. Rubbish. All right, last question would be, okay, so as we look to the future, what role do you see Bitcoin playing in the global financial system? And how can Kenya position itself or herself to take advantage of this emerging trend?
That's a loaded question. As the panelists, my co-panelists said, we are at the early stages, and this year we've actually started witnessing smart money entering Bitcoin. So these are the big companies, BlackRock, Vanguard, and I am very excited, and you're very early on where Bitcoin is going. Right now, I have put more money in Bitcoin this year than I ever have, and when it goes lower, it's just an opportunity to buy it cheaper. That's what I usually tell myself. Of course, you see your money going down. But anyway, how Kenya can position itself? I think right now there is something called ETF. People are open; they are buying Bitcoin through through other businesses or the stock market. Now in Kenya has, when it comes to cryptocurrency, we've really been on the fence. We are not on one side or the other. But the good thing is Kenya has not banned cryptocurrency, which is good. But our central bank has frustrated the cryptocurrency companies. I guess you can find me and I'll explain more. However, I see this week our Nairobi Stock Exchange actually signed an MOU with a company called Vala. So, and Vala trades on cryptocurrency. And I am seeing in the next few years we'll actually have Bitcoin trading as a stock exchange. I am very, very hopeful for that. So regulation is coming, and once regulation comes, it legitimizes the whole sector, and more money will come into Kenya. So Kenya will actually be one of the biggest hubs in cryptocurrency. We already are actually. We are second after Nigeria in Africa, and I think we are doing quite well. One thing that we need to advance is education. So education, a lot of people don't know what Bitcoin is and how it actually can advantage us. And also our regulators also don't know, and our politicians, the legislature, they don't know what Bitcoin is and its advantage. So we need education from the highest level to the grassroots. And with people like us, all of us in this room here, I think we should charge on, we should lead the charge on Bitcoin adoption. Personally, I believe I am doing my part, and he's doing very great business.